Well, he's a cutie pie. I might put him in Potomac. Okay, yes. Yeah, he can come right on to Potomac.
Woo, Skye Squad, we gotta talk. These ladies of Salt Lake City and got me disturbed and bothered and confused, perplexed, confounded, kerfuffled. I feel crazy right now watching this episode. You know, when I'm watching Salt Lake City, sometimes I don't even know who I am when I'm watching the show because the drama just seems so outrageous and out of this world and totally on point for Housewives 2020. We got to get into everything that's going on this particular episode. Before we do that, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell button, and also join the texting community so I can send you a text message when a new video drops. Now, we're going to be recapping the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 1, Episode 5, Ladies Who Lunch, okay? And before we get into that, the headlines, okay? Mary calls Jen a hoodlum at that, a hoodlum. Now I ain't heard the word hoodlum in a minute, okay? I might hear the word hood. She also called it ghetto, but I ain't heard the word hoodlum in a minute. It's so old school. It's such an old school insult, okay? Shout out to Mary for these old school insults and just being wild, okay? So let's get into the episode. First things first, y'all know what we gotta do. We gotta rate the episode. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and rate this episode. I'm gonna give it a solid 8.5. I almost would give it a 9. I don't know why I'm not giving it a 9, but I just feel like I'm gonna give it an 8.5. Now, I'm gonna give it an 8.5 because let me tell you something. The lead up into this fight took me to places that I never expected us to go, okay? I never expected us to be at the place where they would be calling hoodlums and ghetto, and she would be telling Jen to leave. It just seems so out of this world, okay? And I also did not know that carbonation can ruin your ovaries. Did y'all know that? I didn't know that. I was confused by this revelation, okay? Bewildered, perplexed even, you know? So let's get down to the nitty gritty. We resume at the ladies' lunch, the Met Gala themed luncheon, okay? And Jen is trying to explain why she is the way that she is. Now, instead of Mary simply coming out and saying, you know, I appreciate that you have apologized to Mary, but, you know, something that you said the other night about me being a grandpa MFer really bothered me. It bothered me that you said that about me. Even though there is some truth to that, okay? Now, you know, instead of saying that, what she did was she just literally eviscerated Jen in such a way, in such a passive-aggressive way that it almost made her just not likable in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Because she became completely unreasonable, and what she did was internalize that comment. Because I am sure this is not the first time that someone has said something similar to her or about her in that context about her being a grandfather, you know, which is actually true, okay? You know, you have had relations with someone who was your step-grandfather. It is what it is. Now, the way Jen used it was as a weapon that night when she said it. So that is why it is hurtful at this point in time. It was, the ladies were shocked. You know, it was a shocking thing to say. And I'm totally with her on that. But I'm also, I would have been with her had she simply said, you know, can we talk about that moment because it was hurtful for me, you know? And I felt like because Jen was in such an open space, I felt like she would have given her that apology because she seemed to come to the table with an open heart. I will say that. I felt like Jen was not on no overreacting BS that day, okay? She seemed like she was, you know, willing to just be vulnerable. And I appreciate that about her because we needed to see that. Other Jen situations had come across as very over the top, but I felt like this was a great moment for her to shine. And I felt like the viewer, me personally, I empathized a lot with her during this scene, okay? Now, but I also understand where Mary was coming from. But Mary was acting quite unreasonable. Even as the ladies tried to diffuse the situation, she wasn't really hearing it. And I felt like, you know, she just went to a place that it didn't need to go, okay? She called Heather two-faced, okay? She told Whitney, you're only 30, which I didn't know. Did y'all know Whitney was only 30? I did not know this girl was only 30. Now, granted, she looked young anyway, but I was like, oh, well, doggone it, use a young one, okay? A little young buck on the show, okay? I ain't mad at it. Anyway, so she just really kind of attacks everybody who seems to want to really take an active part in diffusing the situation, because she is so wrapped up in her own hurt that she refuses to see anything else. And so when Jen says that she will say the things that other people won't say, you know, at that point is when Mary really becomes incensed and says, oh, of course, yeah, I would never say the things that you say. And she's referring to that comment, okay? Now for Jen is reacting to all of this, and she's obviously hurt. Mary has told her to get out, okay? I don't even know how it escalated to that point. And, you know, she even goes so far as to say, you know, I don't want to do all this in front of Walter. And Walter is like, Walter is like, so I don't even know if Walter knows what's going on in this situation, but you know, she was deflecting by putting the issues off and saying, oh, I can't do this in front of Walter. But Mary, you were the one instigating all of this. And we gotta touch on something that Jen obviously has been holding on to as well. And that is that she was hopeful that as another minority woman, she would be able to connect with Mary, okay? But Mary is in a different space in her own journey as a woman of color, okay? We just gotta call it like it is, okay? We gotta call it like it is. Because Jen lets us know that Mary has said, okay, that if it was a bunch of black people out at the 7-Eleven, she was not gonna go to that 7-Eleven. Now, I don't know what 7-Eleven did to Mary, okay, for her to react this way. But what I will say is this. There was something in the rapport with her and Jen that allowed Mary to feel comfortable to confess that. Because I will tell you, quiet as it's kept, I have heard other black people say similar things, okay? I definitely have, okay? Let's call a spade a spade. Let's be real. In the comment section down below, do you have a friend or a family member that has said something similar? So to me, this ain't nothing new. It's kitchen table talk, obviously, but it ain't nothing new. And by kitchen table talk, what I'm saying is these are things that you would say in the privacy, okay, of your own familiar surroundings and with people with whom you are familiar and have some sort of real connection with, whether it be, you know, race, sexuality, gender, that sort of thing. So that's what I said when I say kitchen table talk, that's what I mean, okay? So for her to say that, and then for Jen to sort of air that out in front of a group of white people, these white women gonna be like, what is going on here? Okay, that's the reality of the situation. Let's call it a thing. And it's also going to be one of the issues that we face as Housewives continue to become a bit more integrated across the various franchises. These are some of the issues that we're going to have to discuss, okay? And so this is not an uncommon situation amongst the black community. Now, also the issue that we have here is the way that Mary is acting in this moment is it's not indicative of what our ideals would be for a first lady to be acting like. Let's call that thing a thing as well. You know what I'm saying? But ultimately, a lot of people feel like first ladies and people who are in higher echelons in the church are actually as judgmental as Mary came across in this episode, okay? Let's just call a thing with that as well, which is what scares a lot of people off from the church. And clearly it's not just the black church that this happens in, because Heather's daughters let us know that they don't feel comfortable going, the daughter don't feel comfortable going into the church because she feels like those people are judgmental there too, okay? So it's just something about people who are ultra churchy, okay? And let's not confuse people who are heavily into the church with people who have relationships with God, because those are two different things. You can have a great relationship with God and still not be churchy type of people. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Holla if you hear me in the back. You know what I'm saying? Because I will get up on this pulpit and preach to y'all today. Okay. Now, so that's that on that. That's the real on that. Let's to have a real conversation today. And I've been itching to have this conversation since I saw the episode last night. And it's something that it keeps people from going to church at this point in time, because they feel like they are being judged for being different or having different circumstances or whatnot. So I understand that. And so as we watch the ladies sort of diverge and go back into their respective, households and speak to their husbands, we see Mary complaining to her husband that she feels like Jen is jealous of her because Jen wants to be the top dog, okay? And that this whole conversation with people coming at her about marrying the grandfather has been used as a weapon against her for much of the time period that they have been obviously married in a successful marriage. Listen, it is definitely not something that, I had ever heard of, okay? It's not something that I would ever want to participate in, but it is not my marriage, okay? So I'm not going to sit here and judge something that has obviously been very successful, okay? I don't get it, but it is her story to tell. And if she's living in her truth, I respect that you're just going to live in that truth. Now, that's all I say about that. I don't necessarily think that Jen is jealous of her, and I don't necessarily think that Mary is top dog. I think that Mary might be top dog in her church affiliation. She might be top dog at the church, but I don't feel like in this group of ladies, I don't feel like there's a top dog per se in this group, because the women are just so dramatically different. And I feel like them coming together is an anomaly in and of itself. And I don't really feel like outside of Housewives, none of these ladies, I don't feel like would all be in the same social circle anyway. Not all of them, and in this way, okay? So I disagree with her on that as well. And I think that, one of the things that Mary has to do is get out of her own head about her own insecurities with, being married to her step grandfather. And then she needs to let that go. Okay. She needs to let that go and own what the actual issue is between her and Jen. And if something that Jen said hurt her feelings, or the way that she said it hurt her feelings, she needs to come out and say that. Now, with regards to Heather and her daughters, this is not something that's uncommon, as we spoke about, because for those of you guys who are in the Black community, you have heard this as well, whereas a lot of people feel like, and it's not just a Black thing, it is, as we see in this situation, it is a general thing, as that people in the church, okay, whether it be Latter-day Saints, Mormon, whatever you want to call it, Christian, Baptist, Pentecostal, whatever the affiliation is, this is how people are really feeling, okay? And somebody needs to listen to that. Now, I want to touch on this whole situation with Meredith and her man, okay? Now, let me say this. I do feel like Coach SHAH grounds Jen, and I feel like he seems like a very reasonable and rational man who definitely seems to hold her accountable for the way that she sort of over dramatically acts, and I feel like he grounds her, and I feel like that's a good yin and yang marriage situation to have, because ultimately I feel like while Jen is sometimes a little inflammatory, I don't think she is harmful, but it's still early in the game, so we'll just have to see how the situation plays out as time goes on. I would say passionate at this point is a better word to describe her, but again, it's still early on. We'll see how this whole situation shakes out. Now, with that being said, let's talk about Meredith, okay? Meredith in this marriage, okay? Meredith done opened up, and she done gave us the tea, y'all. She done gave us the tea. And let me tell y'all what I think about this situation with Miss Meredith, okay? Miss Meredith, to me, is in a situation where she is slightly resentful. This is what I could be wrong. I feel like she is slightly resentful of the fact that she has had to pick up and move her life for this man so many times and pack up their family and do this whole crazy routine of having to readjust. And moving is not easy. So ultimately, I feel like there is a little bit of resentment there, and she wants to finally just live the life that she wants to live in the way that she wants to live it and manage her business and let it thrive in one space. Don't nobody want to be moving all the time, okay? Moving their family up, down, through and throughout the countryside. Nobody wants to do that. So ultimately, I don't really blame her for that. And I feel like that's natural to have some sort of resentment after continuing to move for 20 years. You know what I'm saying? So I think that Meredith is on the verge of, you know what? I need to, you got to go. You go somewhere and let me figure some things out on my own and let me get myself together, because I feel like there is genuine love there, but I feel like it almost feels like I feel like she got a foot out the door. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how I feel in my spirit. And I feel like she's looking for some type of relief, but she's still holding on, because I feel like he is pulling at her heartstrings in very different ways. And he's doing all kinds of little, I don't want to say dramatic, but slightly dramatic, slightly passive aggressive things. But I do feel like he actually loves her. I just feel like he might be going about, trying to win her back the wrong way. But I like that he was willing to, get up out of Dodge and give her some space, although he was probably ready to go anyway, because it sounds like he'd rather be in another state anyway. So there is that. I'm still trying to understand, and see more about Meredith's relationship with her son. Obviously, he is going to factor into this show quite a bit with obviously he has his own fashion line coming up. Now, I guess the thing that's interesting to me about this whole situation, and I need to see this whole situation further, is if you guys may recall on episode 1, when Jen was preparing for the party for Meredith, she was actually wearing a Brooks Marks tracksuit. I don't know if you guys happen to pick that up if you go back to episode 1. So it struck me as odd that a couple of things, that when she went over to the house, he definitely seemed like he didn't care for her that much, but I'm like, she was wearing your tracksuit in an earlier episode. So that obviously means that there's some sort of either familiarity with her, or at least her mom asking Jen to wear that as a favor. I don't know what the case may be, but whatever it is, there's some type of familiarity there. But then on Watch What Happens Live, Meredith said this. Meredith said that night that Jen came over and allegedly flashed her hoo-ha in front of the kids was the first night that she had actually met her kids. But I thought that Jen said in that episode that Meredith's kids were like her own kids. I am confused. Color me confused. I don't get it. Somebody let me know in the comments if you guys peeped any of this and put that together as well, because I'll be Inspector Gadget and on the case, okay? So anyway, I want to move on to Lisa and her family. I like Lisa. Lisa comes across to me, and I've said it before, like, somebody who's she's like a networking queen, but I feel like she looks at this as a job. And when she's on camera, I feel like she's networking. I'm gonna need her to leave her networking hat at home and just, give us a little more reality, because I like Lisa. There is something I like about her. I just feel like we need to get to the root of her, because I feel like what Lisa is giving us on camera is very, very surface. And I think that the key to getting more out of Lisa is going to be more interactions with her and her husband, because I think that her husband has a lot more to say than she's allowing him to say. Not in a bad way. I just feel like she dominates the scene and he says very little, but I feel like there's something there that brings out another side of her. But that's just my opinion, okay? With that being said, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I missed in this particular. Oh, Whitney and her daddy, okay? The Whitney and her dad situation, I feel like is very touching to me. I absolutely 100% love this storyline. I feel like it's so relatable in so many ways. Even if you haven't experienced something like this, you can definitely empathize with her story and the way that her family is sort of maneuvering through this. And I feel like what this has done is I didn't even care too much for her that first episode, but as the episodes have gone on, she's definitely won over my heart, because I feel like she comes on the camera and I feel like what you see with Whitney is what you get. I don't feel like she's playing any type of role. I don't feel like she's playing any type of game. I feel like she's doing her job as a housewife, but also keeping it real at the same time, which I definitely like. And I wish that Lisa would take a little bit of a cue from Whitney with regards to that. But again, I still like Lisa. Don't get me wrong. With that being said, the conversation with Mary and Heather at the end. You know, this is where we learned that carbonation does something to the ovaries. And that was new to me. I hadn't heard that one before. Had y'all heard that before? Because Anyway, we learned that, you know, Mary is just yet again not saying what her actual issue is with Jen, and it's causing her to, you know, it's causing extra friction within the dynamics of the group. And I hate this about situations like this because it makes it difficult for the group to interact. You know what I'm saying? When one person takes a hard stance against another person and is like, I don't even want to be in their same space, that's great for reality, but not reality TV. You understand what I'm saying? So Mary's gonna have to do some work on her own to get over this whole situation and to understand that in order for this whole dynamic to work, she's gonna have to be extremely honest about what it is that she's thinking and feeling at the time. And she's going to have to gain some type of self-awareness. Now, I don't want to get too self-aware because that would take away some of the beauty of Mary. But at the same time, she's going to have to become self-aware enough to understand how to work with the dynamics of the group, if that makes any sense, okay? Now, you guys let me know what you thought about this episode. Those are my thoughts on it. I gave it to you real, live, raw, direct, how I felt about it. And I'm going to catch you guys in the next video.